The gases exchange at the alveoli at the tissue level. Students, as we know very well, the respiration process which helps in the process of intake of oxygen and expelling of carbon dioxide. Before that, let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought how inspiration process occurs inside the lungs? Have you ever thought how expiration process occurs inside the lungs? Let us discuss every point with the help of some examples. If you carefully look at this figure called alveoli, so what are called alveoli? Alveoli are called the air sacs in the lungs. As we know, each lung is made up of tiny room-like structures or small chambers which are called as the alveoli. If you see carefully the alveoli, you can see the blood vessels how they are near to this alveoli. Each sac, if you carefully see, each sac, this is called as the alveolar sac, right, which is a room-like structure. Now you can see the blood vessel. This is the blood capillary, we can call it as blood capillary. So here into this blood capillary, oxygen diffusion takes place. If you take the inspiration process, here during inspiration, the gases are entering into this tiny sacs called alveoli. Here during inspiration, oxygen enters into this tiny sacs called alveoli. When oxygen enters into this tiny alveoli, this oxygen diffuses into the blood to take the blood vessel or blood capillary there. So the blood receives this oxygen. So oxygen received by the blood, as we know that blood contains hemoglobin, which helps in the transportation of gases from one place to another place. Now these alveoli are one cell thick in nature. They are one cell thick. They are tiny and one cell in thick, and they are lined with an epithelial tissue. Now, during inspiration, oxygen diffuses into the blood. What do you mean by what is a typical structure of an alveoli? The typical alveoli, it has specific structure. Let us see the structure of alveoli. If you see carefully, an alveoli is a sac-like structure, right? So it's a sac-like structure. It is one cell thick. It has one cell thick. So around this alveoli, you can see the blood capillaries, right? So imagine these are blood capillaries. So inside this blood capillary, what will happen? Continuously the blood flows, isn't it? Now, let us imagine during inspiration or inhalation, what changes occurs in our body. During inspiration, gases are entering into this tiny structure called or room-like structure called alveoli. So these are small room-like structures or sac-like structures, right? During inspiration, when oxygen enters into this room-like structure, with the help of a process called diffusion, oxygen diffused into the bloodstream. diffused into the bloodstream. As you know that inside this capillary, the blood flows, right? The blood contains hemoglobin, red color proteinous pigmented molecule called as hemoglobin, which receives the oxygen and carries this oxygen towards the cells. So, during alveolar gaseous exchange,